If your world is a bubble, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger over time. And obviously you're not rushing through it, right? This is a process that takes several weeks, if not months. Everything I just told you, from being in a hospital to being able to drive a car across the city, that's several months right there. So it does take time, but once you're more independent and you can get the basics down, as in basic hygiene, you can shower every day, you can make your own meals, you could cook food, you could do groceries, you can do errands on your own. How's it going, Thrivers? Miguel here from CFS Recovery. In this video, we're gonna be talking about when is the right time to go back to work. It can be pretty confusing because there actually is no exact time. There's no moment where you say, yes, 100% for sure, I'm ready to go back. It's more of a gradual process, but that's exactly what we're gonna be talking about in this video. So if you're new to this channel, my name is Miguel. I am the founder of CFS Recovery. I actually had a lot of debilitating symptoms that I dealt with personally. I dealt with 40 or 50 different symptoms over a handful of years. It was about 5 years. And at my worst, I was completely bedridden for about 8 months. At my worst, I was actually hospitalized for 2 months. I went from this very active athlete, high achiever, this go-getter who pretty much felt like he was invincible. I got good grades in school. I had a great life on paper from the outside, but eventually my body hit a wall. I started getting sicker and sicker to the point where I couldn't function anymore. And when I was in the hospital for 2 months, I actually had to go from completely bedbound to learning how to sit up in a wheelchair, to learning to walk on my own 2 feet, to learning to reintegrate back into the world. And from there, that was about 6 years ago when I got out of that hospital. And since then, I've been able to travel to so many different cities, work a lot of different jobs, and actually run CFS Recovery. And the current lifestyle I live now requires more energy and effort than the lifestyle I used to have. However, I'm continuing to get healthier. I'm not crashing. I'm not having any setbacks because I know how to reintegrate back into the world, or I knew how to reintegrate back into the world. And I also know what to do to ensure that I live a sustainable life. But let's go back in time here. So how did I even start building my life from scratch? Because that's essentially what it was. I mean, I really had to start from scratch. I had to start with, my next goal was just sitting up in a wheelchair. Okay, so if you're watching this video right now, regardless of where you're at, maybe you're bedridden, maybe you're couchbound, maybe you're just housebound or semi-functional, maybe you're even working a little bit right now. But the real reason that you're here is because you're wondering, how do I get back to a full workload? How can I work full time, become a fully functioning member of society, and do all of that without having to worry about having my life stripped away from me with symptoms that can pop up? Because I know it's pretty unpredictable. So as I said in the beginning, the truth is there is no perfect time. There's no perfect indicator to know this. You almost have to build your life little by little, right? And it's more of a transition into working. So depending on where you're at right now, when I was starting out, I actually didn't even focus on getting back to work. Even though finances were really tough, right? I had a lot of stacked up credit cards from all the medical tests and treatments and supplements and all these different things that I did, not to mention those expenses, but the amount of lost hours, right? I wasn't able to work for quite a while. And when I was able to work, I wasn't able to work full time. So there was lost income. There was this sense of pressure to try to get back to working as soon as possible. But I realized that if I try to jump back into things too soon, then I would just end up sick again. And honestly, I was just really glad that I could move around, I could eat food again, I could interact with people. So I really had to prioritize my health, number one, because I knew if I just got healthy enough, the money would come down the road, the work would eventually fall into place. But I had to focus on going through these progress cycles that we teach on this channel, right? Going through all these adjustment periods to really focus on building a strong foundation of health first. And if you haven't watched my videos about adjustment periods or progress cycles, I'll leave a video link right up here where you can go back and watch that. Definitely check it out in addition to this video, because that's going to explain what progress cycles and adjustment periods even are. Once I was able to become a little bit more independent, as in I could leave the house on my own, I could drive, I can socialize, I can interact with friends. I was actually starting to break out of this shell of just being a sick person, and I was re-interacting with the world. Okay, I started to get better. My capacity was starting to increase in multiple different areas too. So I was able to do more physically, then I was able to actually look at screens more, use my brain more because the brain fog was less, and just emotionally, right? I wasn't on this roller coaster every single day of mood swings and flare-ups, and one day I'm feeling all right, the other day I'm feeling wiped out. I was a lot more stable, and I started to build from there. So you want to think of it this way. Your world starts very small in the beginning, right? For me, I was confined to just my bed. And from there, I was confined to just the room. And from there, I was confined to, other rooms inside the hospital. Then I was able to roam around the entire hospital. And then I was able to leave the hospital. Well, now I'm at my house. Then I'm able to walk down 1 block and then 2 blocks. Then I could get in my car. So you can imagine almost like if your world is a bubble, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger over time. And obviously you're not rushing through it, right? This is a process that takes several weeks, if not months. Everything I just told you, from being in a hospital to being able to drive a car across the city, that's several months right there. Okay, so it does take time, but once you're more independent and you can get the basics down, as in basic hygiene, you can shower every day, you can make your own meals, you could cook food, you could do groceries, you can do errands on your own. Those are the basics. From there, the next level up would actually be not integrating right back into work if you don't absolutely have to, but integrating into your social circles. So, reconnecting with old friends, going into different environments where you can meet other people. So that's probably the second layer on top of this. So layer number 1, it's getting your health in order, increasing capacity. Layer number 2 on top of that is going to be your social life, right? And that doesn't mean going out as much as you can. It's just really getting into the flow of just talking to people, right? Because for a lot of you, I imagine, because I was there, you're probably at home not talking to anybody all day. You almost forget what it's like to interact with people. So if you just went from not talking to anybody or not having normal conversations, not about symptoms, for several months or years, and you're dropped right into a workplace, it's going to be really hard to adjust. So we need to, I guess, increase your capacity for social activity, right? So you start hanging out with friends, you start going out for dinner, meeting them for coffee, or having them come over. Once you're comfortable doing that and your nervous system is in a pretty solid place, as in you can do that pretty consistently without having these big flare-ups, then I would say, okay, it's probably a good time to start looking for work. So here's another thing too. A lot of people who get CFS or develop this hypersensitive nervous system disorder, they get it because of their previous job. So it's interesting, right? I've personally worked with thousands of people all around the world. Right now, there's several hundred active people using our recovery system. And majority of the time, once they get to a certain level in recovery and they're thinking of going back to work, they think, you know what? I actually don't want to go back to that old job I was doing. I want to do something else because this old job stressed me out. It's too fast paced, too much pressure, and it's not something I fully aligned with. So that's one of the good things about going through this journey is you have a lot of time to yourself to think and reflect on what led to this point. Why did you hit your stress threshold, right? By the way, I don't want to refer out to too many videos, but if you haven't watched that stress threshold video, definitely click the link up here. Okay, but once you trigger that stress threshold, that's what kind of causes this downward spiral, and you don't want to repeat the past, right? Because history repeats itself. So if you were to go to your old job that, maybe caused you to get sick, for me, it was personal training. I tried going back to personal training after I got out of the hospital, but within a week, I already saw old patterns emerging. I was starting to stack my calendar. I was starting to stress out about who I need to call, how many hours can I squeeze into a shift, and I saw these old patterns emerging. So I said, I don't want to do this. I want to start as a completely blank slate. Now, I understand that not everybody has the luxury of trying different things out. So if you absolutely have to go back to your old job, sure, right? But just understand that you're probably going to need to go back into it with a different mindset, something that's more sustainable. But also, through recovery, you learn how to control your emotions and respond to situations. So you're going into it with a different lens and different tools, so you don't push your nervous system to its breaking point. So if you can, I would actually start looking at other jobs or other ways of making income that align with your values, which is another huge thing we teach inside of our recovery system. That's the way to be in a job long-term, sustainably, right? So once you start reintegrating back into work, there's a few things you want to keep in mind. And I know I'm throwing a lot of information here. I'm going to leave a lot of this outline in the description down below, but you want to make sure the hours are flexible. So you don't want to commit to something that is minimum 20 hours a week, no matter what. Because chances are, once you start increasing activity in these areas, you might get some symptoms again. There is this adjustment phase of you starting to work again. So you want to have flexible hours, right? You also want to have minimal hours if you can. I would start something part-time. You want to be in control of your hours, and also keep in mind the physical demand it has on your body. So if you were working a very physical job, maybe you were a construction worker, you were outdoors a lot, you were lifting heavy things, keep in mind that is going to be taxing on the nervous system. Now, if you're working at a desk, right, also keep in mind that's a lot of screen time that you're going to be doing. So you want to be able to take lots of breaks. Like if you have to go into an office for 6 hours a day, that's 6 hours a day that they expect you looking at a screen for. So if you can be more flexible with it to where you can take lots of breaks throughout the day, that's really great. And I would say a bonus would be to find something that you can work from home from. There's a lot of remote jobs nowadays after the whole, lockdown, and all these companies, they started to change their policy where you can work from home. So there are a lot more opportunities where you can start working from home, and that gives you more flexibility, right? Because even if you're expected to work 4 or 5 hours a day, you can always step outside for some fresh air. You can always take a 5-minute break, do some deep breathing, unplug, and kind of hit the reset button for your nervous system. You want to ensure that you're still in control of the schedule to a certain degree. Because if you were to jump all in, let's say 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, even just the pressure of showing up, that's going to keep you up at night. And that's going to add more stimulation to your nervous system. So the flexibility is huge, having the ability to take breaks throughout the day. And finally, number 3 is, this is a bonus, if you can work from home or a job that is less physically demanding, that's going to be great too. And actually, here's one more bonus. I think if you find something that you truly, truly enjoy that aligns with your values, it's not going to feel like work. So for me, when I walked away from personal training and I said, I'm not going back to that, I started doing videography and photography and graphic design. I love the creative side of things. And to me, that didn't feel like work. Just to give you a comparison, right? If I was filling out paperwork for long-term disability, for example, within 5 minutes, I'm getting headaches, I'm getting irritated, my skin's starting to burn. The symptoms are coming back because I did not like that. So looking at a screen or looking at paper for 5 minutes would push me to my limit. Whereas I could look at a screen and video edit for about 6, 7, 8 hours. And even though I'm feeling the symptoms, it's the joy of the activity and the level of interest I had for it, because it aligned with my values and what I enjoy doing. I could do 6 or 7 or 8 hours of that and get the same amount of symptoms that I did for this other 5-minute activity. So you want to find what are those things that you were drawn to that you could do and it doesn't feel like work. Because if it feels like work, that's going to be perceived as extra stress on your body, right? So if you can find something you really enjoy doing, and that's a great thing about this, is a lot of times you can start from a blank slate. You could try different industries that you haven't tried before. Try different roles, responsibilities, something completely different. Like video editing and videography, that is not related at all to personal training. It's like 180. It's not even physical, right? You're sitting in front of a computer, but I made that switch and I really enjoyed it. So you want to find those things that you like doing, but ultimately you want to ease into the work, right? Eventually you're going to increase your hours, and increasing hours is going to be part of expanding activities. So as your work increases, during this adjustment phase, your other activities are probably going to be reduced. you're probably going to be hanging out with friends less, going out less. If you were exercising or going on regular walks, you're probably dialing that back down because you're increasing capacity in this area. So something has to give. Until you're pretty stable here, physically and with your health, then you can start bringing up the other activities again until you're living a fully functional life of thriving health. So I know I threw a lot at you guys in this video. There are a lot of different tips. Obviously you're not going to be able to implement every single thing I shared in here, but what I would challenge you to do, or not even challenge, what I would recommend is you take 1 or 2 things from this video, 1 or 2 things that you really resonated with, and write them down, store them somewhere, and just implement those things. And I would highly suggest as well to watch this video over again because you might have missed something. There are certain things that you will take from each one of these videos on this channel. If you can take even one golden nugget that you can apply, like really implement to your situation, that's what makes all the difference. Because you watch a handful of videos, you have a handful of golden nuggets, and now you're assembling this personalized toolkit that you can apply into your actual situation. If you were interested in getting some extra help with this, I mean, this is something that we help the Thrivers with inside of the CFS recovery system. We actually walk people through, hey, this is what this week looks like. This is what you should be focusing on. And several months down the road, or when the time is right, we say, hey, now's a good time to start looking for work. Based on where you're at, here's roughly how many hours we would recommend. Here's what kind of style of work we would recommend based on your values. So we help people with all of that. We walk them through it. So if you were looking to get some extra help, I'll leave a link down below where you can apply to see if you're even a good fit, see if we can actually even help you. But if you enjoyed this video, comment down below, what was your biggest takeaway? We always love to read the comments. And if you have any other video ideas, you could share that with us as well. It always helps feed the channel with new topics to cover to make sure you guys are getting the help you need. So always remember that you are a thriver and you are just one mind shift away from living life with thriving health. We'll see you guys in the next video.
I'd say that CFS recovery is absolutely the real deal.
I actually felt like somebody had an answer, like somebody explained what was going on and it all clicked.